The Ura produce scientists.
Hello, and welcome back to the Prince of Persia 2008 walkthrough.
People in the world sought to come to, and now it's...
So yeah, we beat the alchemist. We've healed the area. And
have to talk about poetry.
hold on there, Prince Mate. Poetry can be useful sometimes, and even though it's not my favourite type of literature,
Where exactly are we going?
it's certainly important. I mean, if it wasn't for the likes of Geoffrey Chaucer writing his poetry when he did, we wouldn't have ended up with the likes of Shakespeare, really. And if we hadn't ended up with Shakespeare, then I have to say, literature would be in a very, very different position. Well, English literature. Because obviously other countries' literature developed on their own. But yeah, in English literature there's a lot of influence from France that comes in because of the likes of Chaucer. And speaking of kind of literature and kind of different cultures, I feel now is a relatively decent time to talk about the mythology that is used in Prince of Persia 2008. Because it's not something that's really that common. So, Ormazd and Ahriman, our kind of two gods in this game, come from Zoroastrianism. It's a wee bit of a mouthful. Essentially it's an ancient Iranian religion and a sort of religious philosophy. And apparently, according to the incredible source of truth that is Wikipedia, it's the first monotheistic religion. So, if you want to know what I mean by monotheistic, that is the belief in the existence of one god, which makes sense. So apparently it was once the state religion of Achaemenid, Parthian and the Sasanian empires, but obviously it doesn't, well, it kind of exists still, but I don't think it exists as a trusted religion anymore. It grew up in the ancient Persian Empire. You see, this is where the Persian influence comes from, when a religious philosopher called Zoroaster simplified the pantheon of earlier Iranian gods into two opposing forces: the Spenta-Mainyu, which apparently stands for progressive mentality, and the Angra-Mainyu, which stands for destructive mentality, and it all kind of comes under the Ahura Mazda, which means illuminating wisdom, and this was done about 7th century BCE. And these kind of led in around 6th century BCE to kind of a formal religion bearing Zoroaster's name, which has apparently influenced later religions like Judaism, Gnosticism, Christianity, and even Islam. So there's a lot of importance with this particular religion, and you can see the similarities between Zoroastrianism and Christianity, in the fact that you've got two opposing forces, you've got the god type character and you've got the devil type character. And that works. And then also, you have this whole thing of rebirth that Alec is going through, which works quite nicely. So yeah, it's quite cool that they use this. So, Ahura Mazda is essentially Ormazd, and it's kind of the highest spirit of worship in Zoroastrianism. And it literally means light wisdom, because Ahura, which is where we get the Ura here, means light, and Mazda means wisdom.
This place place is the back of Beyond.
So yeah, it's just, that's pretty awesome. And then the Angra Mainyu is Orman, and the Middle Persian equivalent of that name is Orman.
That's another one.
And I mean, apparently, Orman is an original conception of Zoroaster's, but obviously that whole duality has persisted in everything. And Middle Persian itself, which is kind of, I think, where they got some of kind of, well, it's certainly where they got Ahriman and Ormazd from, but I don't know whether the words that Alika says are essentially Middle Persian. It's not something I've kind of looked at, but I would assume that there is some use of it.
Do it.
But basically, it existed up until around the 9th century, where it evolved into New Persian, which is pretty awesome. And that kind of more modern New Persian has basically, I think, persisted since then. So there is a nice little history lesson, because those are always fun. Now, this game isn't the only place that Ahriman and Ormazd have appeared in. Ahriman is featured in a dramatic poem called Manfred, which is written by Lord Byron. They also feature quite heavily in Philip K. Dick's novel The Cosmic Puppets. Angra, so Ahriman, is the final boss of God Hand, Clover Studios. They're just everywhere.
I'm glad you were there to land on.
Also, the Angra Mainyu is a very powerful enemy that can be fought in Final Fantasy X-2, and Ahriman is a recurring enemy throughout the series. And yeah, it turned up surprisingly a lot. Nothing particularly that anybody would have taken much notice of, other than the Byron and a Gilbert and Sullivan operetta, and maybe Philip K. Dick's novel. But it's quite nice to see that it has kind of found its roots in. Well, it's found places to root itself in kind of modern culture. But something that kind of anybody who has ever watched a walkthrough / playthrough of mine knows is that I really like kind of finding out these historical facts, because it really kind of develops your understanding of where some of these games are coming from, in terms of their ideas and what they're evoking. Because it kind of deepens the games and kind of makes them just feel more than merely titles that are just being created purely for enjoyment. I mean, enjoyment is obviously a primary thing that should happen whenever you're making a video game. But having kind of some extra deep meanings really kind of helps make these things last a bit longer in terms of thinking about them. And we have enough light seeds to get what we get for getting enough light seeds. But I want to finish off covering this area before we do that, because having everything nice and neatly tied up just makes more sense to me. I mean, up until later in the game, there is literally no way that I can get every single light seed in every single area, because I just don't have the ability to, for reasons that you will see reasonably shortly, because some of the light seeds are trapped away behind things that you need. And another thing I will point out is that, as with another game, I can't quite remember which game it was, but I remember seeing it very recently in a video that I was watching near the time I'm recording this commentary, which featured a highly similar complaint about a game to what happened to Prince of Persia here, is that kind of you have to retread through exactly the same area as you just visited to get all the light seeds. Thankfully here it is pretty much optional, but yeah, it's a bit awkward. Anyway, we get to teleport around. If you've healed an area, or if you just want to go to the temple, teleport to that location, because it's a lot quicker.
Was that thing we fought in the temple a corrupted?
No, it was a soldier of Ahriman. Some were trapped with him when he fell.
But as you can see, there are plates on the floor which are glowing quite beautifully, colourfully, and they are going to be something that's going to help us. So, these are powers, and these allow us to access different fertile grounds throughout the game. Now, you can choose your powers in any order. Just know that as you progress, the amount of light seeds you need to collect in order to unlock the next power increases. But you only need about 540 light seeds in total to get every single power.
They know where we're going.
Now,
Ahriman's chosen.
in terms of which ones are the most fun to control, I would say that the green one, the Breath of Ormazd, is probably the most fun to control.
What's the going rate?
Most who stood against him were
But
killed,
the
or turned into the creatures
easiest ones
Some of those who sold themselves into his service just
are
because of Ahriman's
Step of
creatures.
Ormazd
The
and
corrupted were
Hand of
killed.
Ormazd,
They retained some of their free will,
which is the red
some
one
of
and the
their
blue
soul,
one.
and Ahriman gave them powers to
What is
fight for his
by
cause.
far the worst one of the bunch is the Wings of Ormazd, which is the yellow one.
We're alive, so he must be trapped.
And yeah, you'll see why I don't like that one as much. But it's going to be a while before we get to that point.
So far today, you think there's anything that can't be?
These plates haven't been lit for generations. The healings must have had an effect.
Will they keep Ahriman trapped?
No. They gave the Ura their powers. Now that they're active, we can reach the other fertile grounds. If we heal those...
Then he'll be trapped and we can get out of here?
Yes.
So, at this point we get to choose which power plate we go to, and because I'm going to go in a left to right kind of fashion through the collections of fertile grounds, the first place we are going to is
We have to use these
gonna
powers
be
to get to the fertile grounds?
Yes.
in
They want us to protect
the
them.
Hunter's
You
Domain.
have to teach me how to use them.
And so, this is what the power plates do. Hidden around the world, there are plates which allow you to use these powers.
If the powers were meant to protect the fertile,
And Surf of Ormazd is basically a massive leaping jump to different areas. It's pretty cool to see, but isn't
can't this
that
Ormazd
involving,
stop
to be
Armin?
honest.
No one knows where he is.
Some god of light sticking us with his problems.
Indeed.
1,000 years ago, after the war here, Ormazd imprisoned Armin. He left the Ura to guard the prison.
And
He left. No one knows to where.
It's always annoying when gods leave to just
The prison is
let
weakened.
things crumble around them.
bring him back?
If Ormazd were here, he would stop.
It sucks.
He's not, so it is up to us.
But yeah, basically, for every power you will have to go through one of these sections that basically is a nice little tutorial for the power.
It is not Ormazd who has given them to me. It is the temple.
You can see why Armin is angry.
But yeah, I mean, I really do like this area. It's a really kind of cool design,
Ormazd and Armin
with all the blue.
created to balance the universe. Until Armin
I
decided
hesitate to say this because I haven't played any of the Prince of Persia games. I think that this place has kind of some sort of precedent in the series. But, as I said before, I haven't played any others, so do not quote me on that, because I'm potentially really badly wrong.
Elika, please, I did this for you. The task of our people is past. The tree grows weak.
Are those your words? Or Armin's?
Where was Ormazd when your mother was taken from us? Where was he in your hour of need? Elika, I am your father. I am your king.
Say, the next time you want to win your daughter back, you could try just giving her a pony. The apocalypse doesn't really cut it.
Have to agree with the Prince on that one. The apocalypse is a very, very, very bad thing to give your child. Nobody wants that stuff, at all.
We have one of the powers of Ormazd. We can reach more of the fertile grounds. Let's go to them. I think we must heal more
So,
lands before we return here again.
Yes, getting the next
The fertile
plate,
grounds are what count now. We
I
must
think it's
get
like
to them.
around
There's
120
nothing here for
light
us.
seeds,
I'm sure you and your father.
My father betrayed
which
his
thankfully
duty.
isn't that
He's
much.
risked Armin returning to the world.
Yes, but why do you think he did it?
I don't know.
You must have
I
some idea why your
suspect
father
you
set
do know,
Armin free.
Aleka.
He was trying to get me to leave. I refused.
I really do suspect that you know a little bit more,
He was
Aleka.
convinced the temple was failing.
But I'm sure we'll find out as we move on.
It's only a matter of time before I die. I'm not hurrying that up.
Don't judge him. You don't know him.
What you said about the temple failing. If the temple's failing, can we even stop Armin?
We have to.
We have to doesn't mean we can.
Things have changed. The land has changed. We can stop Armin.
I can't help you if you shut me out.
What else do you need to know?
If you couldn't fix the temple before, why can you now?
I didn't have these powers before. The land must want me
And
to...
so, with this argument finished, roughly,
No.
But if you
it's
didn't
time for
have
us to head to the next fertile ground, and we're going to meet a new corrupted. Oh dear.